This man has been an effective lobbyist for the National Rifle Association for many years and was instrumental in the recent Illinois concealed carry legislation. Please welcome Todd Vandermyde.
Good afternoon, gun lobby. Kind of funny, last night, right around the corner from here is a little place called Saputo's. And a bunch of us got together last night, and I got to eat in the safest restaurant in Springfield. Just so happens, I think there are about 15 guns between the two tables that nobody saw. I don't know how it made some of the city guys who were in there having dinner feel that night, but I know how it felt for me. But you know, it's kind of interesting. Here we are, 5 full days past the time that an Illinois resident opened up their mailbox and got their concealed carry license and put it in their hand and put a gun on their head. And the streets are only covered in snow and salt. Who'd have thunk? And what we need to do is think about some of the gains that we've made. It's not a perfect bill. Some people might not even say it's a great bill. But let's look at what the other side lost last year. They lost on the issue of preemption when it comes to transporting firearms anywhere in the state. They can no longer create absurd and arcane type of rules that you have to break down the gun and it can't be anywhere close to you in your vehicle and it has to be in a case and all those other things. We got preemption for a number of issues, the first one being transportation. For the first time in 60 years, a Chicago resident no longer has to go down to City Hall and register any of their firearms. The work that Otis McDonald, David, and Colleen Lawson started in that lawsuit, we finished with a piece of legislation that said they cannot regulate handguns. Not that they can't say something about, they cannot regulate, register handguns, their ammunition, and it is an exclusive jurisdiction of the state. Yes. And that stung. Not only that, but they can no more put regulations on licensees when we carry. They wanted a carve out for Chicago, they didn't get it. They wanted a carve out for Cook County, they didn't get it. They wanted special rules for those places, they didn't get it. So now, today, it's legal for anyone with a carry permit to carry their handgun in the manner they choose, concealed upon their person, in their vehicle, through the city of Chicago. And the superintendent's having a hissy fit on a regular basis. And I think it is safe to report that Superintendent Mr. McStreetlights, none of our people have shot any. But the funny thing that really seems to be driving them nuts are these little signs that you see creeping up in places saying no handgun carrying allowed. And it's just utter, I couldn't figure out what it was at first. It's a sign. You wanted these places prohibited, you should be happy that there are these places that are prohibited. That's what you want. But then I heard from one of the mom's people who talked about it in a TV interview that their small child, when they go into preschool, kept pointing to the sun and asking about the gun sign. And then it dawned on me. It's a reminder every single day, every time they go past one of these places, they lost. Every time they turn around, they have to consciously think. And they see it that it's a reminder that we won the legislative fight, we won the court fight, and now they have to work overtime to try to find ways to get other places added to the list and cajole businesses. Kind of amazing that just yesterday Staples threw them out of their corporate headquarters because they didn't want to hear their nonsense. And you've heard some of the other speakers talk about we're not done yet. And we're not done yet because we have there are three fronts that we fight on. But the first one comes up on the 18th, and that's elections. And we've got some friends that have gone out of their way to help us and stand up for all of us in this fight this last year. And they're in some tough primaries. And it's not over our issues, it's over other issues. But when I go into that voting booth, you know, the Second Amendment is tops on my list to vote. And so we need to re-elect guys like Dennis Roboletti, Ron Sandak, John Anthony, Eddie Sullivan, Jeannie Ives, and Sue Shearer. They're our friends, and now they helped us last year. They stood up for us. 30 some odd votes in the House dealing with, you know, issues on concealed carry and every archaic and stupid idea that could be mustered out of the city of Chicago. We fought, and they fought with us. But now, between now and the 18th, they need our help. And our job and my job in protecting all of you is a lot easier when they're here to help me. And so I would ask you, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to the people that live in those districts, and make sure they get out and vote for those candidates. Now, we're not done. We're going to come back, and we filed a bunch of bills. They thought they could file bills. They saw how many bills we could file. And we're just getting warmed up here. And we're going to keep pushing back on all of these restrictions. We're going to keep pushing back on mass transit bans. We're going to keep pushing back on bans in public parks. We're going to keep pushing back on the fees, the hours of training, and all the things that they think, you know, that we think are impediments and hurdles to the process. But then all of a sudden they decided they were going to go in a different direction. And they were going to sit there and introduce a bill to force us to register every firearm we own.
Good luck with
and
that.
they lit a fuse here. They lit a fuse with a lot of people. But what's kind of interesting is the law of unintended consequences. Because while they thought it was cute, or let's try the Chicago-style bill, some of our brethren over in Connecticut were getting a taste of just exactly what that means. They passed a semi-auto ban in Connecticut, and they said that you could only keep your existing gun if it fit that definition if you registered it. Funny thing happened on the way to the implementation. They estimated they needed 375,000 firearms to be registered, close to 2 million magazines. They got registrations for about 50,000 magazines and 38,000 guns. Somewhere they can't account for about 325,000 firearms that should be registered.
Yeah.
And it's only about registration until it's about confiscation, because now we see newspapers in Connecticut calling for them to use the background check records to go door to door to force compliance upon these individuals who one day were an honest average citizen and the next day could be facing a felony and 5 years in the penitentiary. Funny thing, it's never about gun control and confiscation until all of a sudden it's about gun control and confiscation. And to those individuals, you know, Josh Sugarman, our friends at the VPC and Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, they keep telling us that gun owners are on a declining trend. There's fewer and fewer of them. I don't know. I was the first one in my family to become a gun owner. I've got a 14-year-old son shooting practical rifle and running around with an AR-15, kicking down doors and having fun at the range. I got a 10-year-old that we're going to bring into the family, so I'm going to double what came to me. But with this, because they are our future, and what kind of drives them all nuts is that while they keep saying we're a dying breed, funny thing happened since Barack Obama took president. FOID cards went from 1.2 million to 1.67 million in the last few years. That's a 33% increase in gun owners in a state like Illinois. We're not Texas, not Wyoming or Arizona, but I think a 33% increase in gun owners in the state are pretty good. And what we can't get through the legislature, we'll go back to court. It seems kind of funny, the city of Chicago is paying our lawyers over $2 million in attorney's fees so far. I had the pleasure of reminding them at a city council hearing on some of their new ordinances of that fact. And I'd like to remind the aldermen that are listening again today, I'm told the fees in the Ezell case could be running into the $1 million figure that you haven't settled yet. In the case that started off as Benson, we're over $500,000. So you seem to think that you have millions of dollars of taxpayer money to fritter away. Okay, you're going to be sending our lawyers' grandchildren to Harvard to come back and fight you again. And in case they've forgotten, McDonald, Ezell, Gowder, Moore, Shepard, Benson. That is just the beginning of the roll call of Second Amendment cases we have won in the federal courts here in the state of Illinois. We're 5 for 5 at the state Supreme Court. Diggins, Aguilar, others. And there's more to come. So you can either pay attention to what the courts have said. If you want to continue to thumb the municipal nose at the courts, sooner or later they're going to get about as cranky as we are. We're not going to give up. We're not going to go away. And if you think Illinois gun owners are going to roll over and you're going to make us the next Connecticut, the next New York, or the next Maryland, we've got a big news for you. With that, God bless, and I'll see you at the Capitol.